Welcome to the Pasho Perspective, a place where I offer my perspective about everything in the space between life and death. I am your host, Pasho. Today we're going to talk about Jordan Peterson's rule number 4. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. This is a great rule, especially when we're dealing with our society and social media. I have noticed so many students are down or depressed because of the way they relate themselves to others that they follow. So you get a really pretty girl, you get a really strong, good-looking guy, and you take a teenager looking at these things, and there's your insecurity, there's your lack of confidence. They're trying to reach an ideal, but it's impossible. Every person is taken. We have to be ourselves. And so comparing ourselves to what other people have, celebrities and politicians and athletes, people like that, influencers on social media, it's really easy to get resentful and bitter. It's really easy to get jealous at all the different material items that they have. But there's one thing that we don't really remember when we're in awe of such people. Their path was also a crooked path, just like each and every one of us. They had to go through some struggles. They had to deal with relationships and perhaps toxic people and, events where they made poor decisions and then reaped all of the consequences that go with that. We really don't know the whole story. All we see are the highlights, especially on social media. That's all we're getting is the highlights. I remember reading Time magazine once, I think 5 or 10 years ago, and they said that the average for a teenager, especially girls, how many pictures they take of themselves before posting a selfie is somewhere in the number like 300. You take 300 pictures before you post one because we are so self-conscious and we give other people's opinions about ourselves. We give it way too much influence and way too much power. And when we're looking at these people, it makes sense that a lot of my students start getting depressed and feeling, low about themselves because they don't compare, to these people. But, really that's insane. And I try to stress to my students that, we can't compare apples to oranges. You can compare one apple to another apple, but an apple and an orange, they're two different things. Like, what are you going to base it on? Like how juicy an apple is when only oranges are juicy, or how edible the skin is when orange skin really isn't that edible? It doesn't make any sense. And so here Jordan Peterson reminds us that instead of wasting our time, because that's really what it is. Teddy Roosevelt once said that comparison is the thief to joy. So we're just wasting our times comparing ourselves and evaluating ourselves of other people who have gone through God knows what. Instead, as Peterson reminds us, we should focus on who we were yesterday. What was the baseline that we finished the day with? And then looking at today's trajectory, did we get closer to our goal? Or did we just waste time and stood in one place? Which he also reminds us in this chapter that you have to have some kind of aim. And as Jordan Peterson would always say, aim high. Try to break what you want to accomplish into steps where you make it difficult, so it's challenging, and you grow and you evolve. And like Maya Angelou would say, you stretch yourself. But you also have to make that step proximal so that it's something that can be reached. So that way, when you do reach it, you can celebrate and you can look back at who you were yesterday and say, I didn't come this far yesterday. And today, look where I've come. And if you're looking at your goals set before you like 10 years ahead, I want to be this person, successful in a good relationship. I want to be, confident and secure in myself. I want other people to feel that they can trust me. And so what steps do I need to get to or take to get to become that person that version of myself 10 years from now? And then you start taking those steps and you start stretching yourself and getting out of your comfort zone, because your successful person isn't going to be timid in 10 years. Your successful person is going to be somebody who is affable and outspoken and confident and strong in what they believe. And so you start deciding, now I'm going to start becoming that person. I'm not that person yet, but I'm going to start taking steps. right? And so, yeah, it's going to be difficult and it's going to take you out of your comfort zone, but you make those steps close enough that you can be reached. And don't forget too that every time you do reach those steps, it's important to celebrate, reward yourself. That way you're not looking back and thinking, oh, I really haven't accomplished much. I mean, maybe that celebration will be a reminder, like a little bookmark or something in the novel of your life that, yeah, that was a good moment. That's one of my proud moments. That's one of my happy moments, and the more of those we get, the better reel we're going to have when we get into heaven. And we can look back at time and see all the great things that we've accomplished, all the relationships and all the love that we have shared. Ideally, I think that would be pretty cool. So other than setting a high aim, Jordan Peterson also reminds us that our life is so idiosyncratic for comparison. We are an impossibility. If you really think about it, what were the chances, of your mother being in that place and your father also arriving there too at the same time? And what are the chances, that they reach for the same milk gallon and they touch hands and they lock eyes and then everything else is history in the books? Like I sometimes share with my students, it was the right kind of pour. The bartender had a heavy hand, or maybe not too heavy of a hand to where they'd be deterred to drink, and then, they get sideways, decisions aren't always the clearest, and boom, you come into life. I mean, the chances of us being born, of our parents being born, of them being there, of your grandparents, I mean, you can take that on into infinity in your history. The chances that we exist are incredible. It's amazing. And it's unique. To compare ourselves to other people is insane. God didn't make us all different so that we would blend in. If he did that, we would look like sheep. We would look like zebras. God made us all unique so we can stand out. We're complex. Jordan Peterson would say we're more like a rich tapestry. Don't oversimplify your life by material goods, that you don't have such a house, you don't have such a car. You are so much more. What about your relationships? Maybe somebody that you're admiring, yeah, they have all these things, but they're alone because they don't really trust anybody, because they don't know, are you with me because of my money and success, or because you're really my friend? Where maybe you have some of those relationships that are unquestioned and their loyalty to you is infinite. And so you are so much richer in that regard. The end of A Wonderful Life, when Clarence tells the main character, in a message that he writes in his book, a man is never poor when he has friends, or something to that effect. Don't quote me. I'll put it in my show notes if it's not correct. So how do we do it? How do we fix ourselves? We're going to take stock of what we have. We're going to take stock of what we are. Maybe some of you need to get out a legal pad and actually write this stuff down. Make it real so that you can see it and start buying into the program that you are an amazing person. You are something to be trusted. You are someone to love, worth loving. You take stock also of your weaknesses and deficiencies. What are things you wish you weren't? Like if you're shy and introverted, maybe that's one of those things. I wish I was more outgoing and outspoken and, I can make friends easier. I'm not saying go out there and make 20 friends in a day, but, it starts with one person. And if you can talk to one person, you can talk to another person. And then maybe it's not even just a familiar relationship. Now, because you can talk to people and make them friends, maybe you can start talking to some people and making them a little bit more than that. Step 2 is you decide then, what can I improve? Right? I've got this good stuff, but I've got this not so good stuff. So which item, which characteristic can I focus on today and this week and this month, or maybe even this year, and chisel that down into something that you're more confident and proud of. Then you have to decide, third step, what are you going to do? What do you have to do then to become that person? How do I start becoming friends with a person? And maybe you read some books, some self-help. Maybe you read some novels and figure out how did they get along? What did they do for each other? Step 4, you do it every day. Every day, work on that attribute. And then pick another one and work on that until it's complete. And then you choose another one and it's never done. I'm still learning. I'm still fine-tuning myself. And don't forget to reward yourself after every step that you've accomplished. I've made a friend. I've made a bunch of friends. I joined a club. I'm on a team. I'm working on being more outspoken. I'm volunteering answers. I'm volunteering doing work and presentations for my job. Step 5, and I can't stress this enough, Stop comparing yourself to other people. Matter of fact, just throw all that social media stuff in the virtual garbage. All right, keep the stuff that you have your friends and your family and only focus on your friends and your family. Why are you so concerned whether people in the public that you have no idea who they are, why do you care if they like you or not? Why do you care if they approve? You don't need their validation. Instead of focusing on everybody else, focus on what my Father wants you to be, the best version of yourself, being honest and true. Step 6, monitor your progress. Write it down. Cross off on your list the things that you're going to start working on when you get them at a point that you're happy with. I love making the list just so I can do the crossing off. Do that too. And hopefully, when we do this, when we stop comparing ourselves to other people and we start taking measurement of where we were yesterday, where am I today, and how much closer am I moving in the right direction towards my goals, my dreams, the version of myself I see 10 years from now. Incremental growth is unstoppable. And we're going to finish with a quote from Freidrich Neitzsche that Jordan Peterson also has in this chapter. And it's a great quote. He who has a why can bear almost any how. Know why you're going to make that sacrifice. Know why you're going to go across a crowded room to talk to a girl and ask her for her number. When you have that why, because she's the one, because I can see my children's face in her eyes, or something to that effect, perhaps less romantic, who cares about how? Jordan Peterson would say a bad plan is better than no plan because a bad plan can be fixed. And if you're on a bad plan, you're going to find out soon enough that it's the bad plan and you're going to have to change it. But don't create a plan B. That's a different presentation from another time. But if you give yourself a plan B, you might as well throw plan A out because you have your safety net and you're going to absolutely use it. So use a bad plan. Even if it's bad, even if you're shaking in your boots, walk across that cafeteria, go up to the girl of your dreams and tell her, hey, yesterday I wasn't brave enough to talk to you, but today your beauty has motivated me to do it. I'm a new man, newborn, and if I get to bathe myself in your lips, I will become new baptized. All right, that was a little bit over the top, but I'm going to leave it in anyway. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, as always, guys, for joining me today. If you liked the episode, please share it. All right, sharing is probably the best flattery you can give me, expose me to more people so that I can, hopefully reach more people and give them the words that I've been giving to you. In case you haven't already, please smash that subscribe button and leave a review. It would help me and the podcast out tremendously. You can also support me and the podcast over at Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/The Perspective and become a member of Pachos Chachos. God bless and have an amazing life, guys. We'll meet again next week where we'll be discussing Dr. Jonathan Haidt's How Social Media is Making Us Mentally Ill. Until then, take care.